Christopher Wineland, given the novelty of the project system, which replaces the program system, under what circumstances would you consider amendments to a system's LOI so that other projects can be included for consideration in the calendar year 2023 application? So we did talk about this as a program section, and we do not want to be, punitive and like, this is a new process, right? This is something that's never been done before. And so with that, we do want to grant some leniency. So if through this workshop, you were keyed into something that previously you were not aware of under the old process, please reach out. And if you feel like, hey, we need to apply for this as well. With this new information, just let us know, because again, we do need to vet you for eligibility, making sure that, if you previously weren't applying for capitalized maintenance, that if you are now, that you have the financial capacity to, comply with 2 CFR 200. There's different, for different projects, there's different considerations we make. So the sooner you can reach out, the more likely it is that we could make accommodations. So if through this workshop today you find yourself in that position, please reach out, and we will go from there. It would be probably a case-by-case basis on what we're able to approve. Okay, I'm getting falses. Certs and Jean Taddy, the certs and assurances you mentioned need to be submitted. Is that the federal certs and assurances? Yes. So if you are only seeking state funds, or like, if we'll kind of determine if you're ultimately, as you're submitting the application, if you're kind of only a state funding candidate, that wouldn't be required for you. I will speak with Juana, but I'm pretty sure we only require the certs and assurances for our federal programs, because when we go in to do our federal grants with the subaward projects, we have to basically verify the certs and assurances, so we require them at the time of application. But if it's not a project that will be funded federally, we don't require it. Juana, please correct me if I'm wrong.
Jean is with the Richland County, so Mansfield is an urban system, so it does not apply to Richland County.
Right. But if you're a urban system that's applying for rural funds, it could apply, right? In theory, if during your rural application, you might see it come up because you would be included in our rural grant, and therefore we would need the certs and assurances. But if you're purely urban and that's it, it won't apply to you. Mason Dickerson, if we are to work ahead on the application and not wait until the final hour, which is understandable, can we expect timely responses to our question from ODOT staff? Who should applications go to, since it is all one application? So this might have been answered or asked before I got to this question screen. Yes. Reasonable timeline. Again, we're juggling 3 cycles right now. So we will try to get back to the questions as soon as possible, but directing it to this program inbox means 5 eyes see it versus 1, right? So that's why, because we are acknowledging that we have a lot of things that we're juggling right now and that might negatively impact response times, we are setting up these systems to try to mitigate some of that. So send it to transit.programs@dot.ohio.gov, since it is one application like you mentioned, and hopefully you will receive a response within a couple of business days. If at any point you're not getting responses, within a couple of business days, email me directly, and I will take a look at that. Jean Taddy, do we need to attach quotes from one or more contractors for capital projects? It depends. In some cases, yes, you will. And it really depends too on the price, right? So if it's like a micro purchase, less than $10,000, really all to comply with procurement is a price justification, and so you will be requested to justify the cost, and in some cases, you know, that can be justified through quotes. So it really does depend on the capital project. But if you are required to attach quotes, you will be notified of that because there will be an attachment file that says, you know, the quotes for this capital project, and you'll know at that time, okay, I got to grab these quotes and upload it. Robin Richter, did I hear correctly? $6 million in state funds are allocated for OTP2, and if rurals do not apply for these funds, revert to urban projects. So yes, on the OTP2 side, 15% of those funds are set aside for rural projects. And this was done because urban and rural needs and are just so vastly different. And so then ultimately how scores are done are so vastly different that we wanted to preserve that rural investment through OTP2. So we do set that money aside. But if WANA doesn't receive enough requests from rural areas, or there's just not enough good projects from rural areas, then yes, we take any money left over from that rural site set aside and apply it to good urban projects. But our first priority is making sure the rural needs are met first. And then there's an additional $6 million that is through the Rural Transit Program state GRF funding source that is dedicated purely to rurals. Just like urbans have 16.6 million dedicated just to urban. Ashley Boyd, to confirm, if you are applying for funds to replace local match for vehicles that are already federally funded, we will apply for each vehicle's match in a separate project. No. So, so that's a good question. You will be asked in the project type, you will be asked, does this match a federal grant? And if it is a vehicle, if you're applying for like state funds, for example, to match a federally funded project, you will say yes, and you will put in the federal amount. And then in the ODOT assistance part, you will just put the amount you want from ODOT for that matching source. When it comes to your local match section, you will just be asked one time, and you will put up there the local match source is ODOT grant funds, for example, and then the amount. So we would know the local match for this project is what you're saying you need is it's all on ODOT to supply, basically. You have no other local match source for this project. Does that make sense, Ashley? If not, let me know. I know on the urban side, that's a little bit, you guys do utilize state funds for federal matching. So we do have that consideration in there for you to outline that. David Peterson, will we receive LOI acceptance before the application process? Yes, and you should have. So Juana, Chris, and Alex, can you make note that David has not received that yet? And can you look into why it is? We sent those out last week, David, so you might have been inadvertently missed somehow, or it might have went to someone else in your organization. So let us look into that for you. Andrea Abby, the ODOT Office of Transit says that applications are due on May 6th, which is correct date, May 4th and May 6th. May 4th is the correct date. So I think you mean the website says May 6th. I will look into that and get that updated. It is May 4th. May the 4th be with you. Punny. I'm making a note, bear with me. So if you need to remember, just remember May the 4th be with you with your grant applications to ODOT this year. Ashley Boyd, you said that vehicles will not be awarded with state funds. Does that mean OTP2 funds? Will 5310 funds be awarded for vehicles? Can OTP2 funds be awarded to replace local match on vehicles awarded by federal programs? Okay, That's a lot to unpack. First, correct. So we will not be using OTP2 funds to award vehicles that like still need to be ordered, if that makes sense, because the delivery dates of those vehicles are so far out. And the other big thing here is price increases. We get a price increase nearly every 6 weeks. So because of that, and we have fixed state funds, it makes it very, very hard to adapt to the evolving program needs and provide more funding when necessary. And so because of that, that's why we're saying no, and that does mean OTB2 funds. 5310 funds will be available for vehicles. And can OTB2 funds be awarded to replace local match on vehicles? Juana, I will let you chime in here. My thinking is if it's a vehicle that's already been like awarded, then we could provide match for those vehicles.
Yes.
But Juana, would you agree with that?
Yes, we could apply state OTP2 funds as matched since the vehicles were already awarded and ordered. We know that those will be delivered in a fairly timely manner.
Yeah, and the other big thing about that is if it's already kind of like a locked-in price, right? Meaning that that state match is predictable and not subject to change. That's the, like I said, that's the big variable there on the new vehicle orders is the likelihood of that award actually covering the cost by the time that it's actually delivered is so unlikely that it's just too volatile of a situation for us to be able to apply like a fixed cost like state funds. You know, there is no more, we can't increase the project for you. So. Jean Taddy, if a community in our service area could contribute some of the ARPA funding, would this count as local match? Okay, Jean, it depends. So as long as the ARPA funds did not come from the US DOT, right? If it came from another federal entity, it is can be counted as match source. But if it came from the US DOT, then it cannot, because you cannot match US DOT to other federal. But let's say that you are, it's like a state project, like it's funded by state, then it could match, right? It just can't be federal to federal. So if you have a local entity that has ARPA funding, I would just ask them the CFDA number of that so that you can check and see who the administering agency is and make sure it's non-DOT funds.